Welcome back to Hi Guys, BDR here, back with another AQ video, and today is going to be, the full King's Echo farming guide, basically telling you where to go, this and that, yada yada yada. So, the King's Echo class, it released last night. As you see right here, I already got the class, rank 10. It took about a few hours of grinding. I kind of like that. It's not locked behind a 4-week ultra. Very nice. In this video, I'm gonna, basically tell you guys, how to grind the sword, the mace, the armor and the helm right then and there. So how to get started, you have to slash join, Termina Temple, you know, you're gonna want to walk to the right, go on this horse right here, and you're gonna see, Queen Victoria. Queen Victoria right here. Now she is gonna have a quest. Obviously, I finished the quest line. She's gonna have a quest that's basically gonna be like, this is the first quest. The first quest requires you to just basically go back to the first, room of the map, and you're gonna want to talk to Tara right here. Once you're done, complete the quest. Go back, or if you have quest spinner, there you go. Now then, now that's happened, now the farm begins. Basically, grind the sword, the mace, the crown, and the armor. Now, each one of them is going to take you to a place, is going to teleport you to where the quest is at, so you can get the item. Alright then, let's start with the sword. Alright, so the first of the 4 pieces is the sword. Now, if you click on the sword path, it will teleport you to Portal. Now, you're going to see the Spirit of Korvac right here, and the Path of the King quest. Here are the monsters you have to kill. Right there, and that, as you see, you could choose 2 different paths. With the King's Echo grind, it's basically like this, right? There is a harder hitting, more HP boss that will give you a guaranteed drop, and there are monsters with lower HP, but the drop is not guaranteed. I'm only going to be showing the guaranteed path because that's the path I did. Because it's just like, I'm not going to be spending hours. I just want the guaranteed drop. This and that. Alright then. This, that. Here are the monsters that you need. And let's get started with the quest. Now then. So for this quest, the first, one is Endured Against the Defiler. Now, for non-members, your only option is Infernal Arena, which you want to click on ranks. And you want to click on the quest, Defiled Destiny. As you know, with Inferno Arena, you can only accept 1 quest at a time. Once you accept that, it will take you to the Destructive Defiler. Here he is. Right here, you basically have to, bonk him 100 times. Oh no, class point boost is faded. With that, basically, just find yourself like a decent soloing class, and you'll just be just fine. There you go. And, he'll drop the Endured Against the Defiler. Alright then, let's move on to the next, one. Alright then, so next is the Endured Against the Monster King. What you have to do here is, go back to Ebon Dungeon and kill Deathrix. He is a human tag, so I would recommend, wearing, human, boosting weapons. And as such, right now, Ebon Dungeon is going to be swarmed, so, with a full lobby, he could be taken down within, like, 5 seconds or something like that. So, there you go. And bam. That's how you can get the Endured Against the Monster King. Alright, let's move on to the next one. Now then, for the Endured Against a Fallen Friend, the guaranteed drop comes from Sepulchre Battle. So, right now, obviously, full lobbies can take him down within seconds. You do need to bonk him, 100 times. Which is alright, like I said, full lobby will be taken down within seconds. And also, I believe this is, the Sepulchre that drops the Doom Heart as well. So here you go, Endured Against a Fallen Friend. Now let's move on to the next one. Alright, so for the Endured Against Chaos, what you want to do here is slash join Chaos Boss, go to the Ultra Fight, and then, bonk, the Ultra Chaos Warlord 113 times. Like I said, right now, lobbies are going to be filled to the brim, so this guy could be taken down within 5 seconds for easy bump, and here you go, for that guaranteed drop. Alright, then let's move on to the next one. Alright, so the last requirement for the sword quest, it requires you to go slash join Noisegrave and kill the Vulgar Gridian right here. Obviously, with lobbies, you can get the job done and whatnot. So yeah, that's basically what they want you to do, basically. You know, bonk him 70 times and, you know, yeah, you'll basically get the job done like that. And you'll get endured against the Great Dragon. Alright then, let's move on to the next piece of the grind. Alright then, to get the mace, you have to slash join, castle. This is another one that really requires you to make sure that you have all your pre-requirements done, whatnot. So you want to, just follow me. You're going to click on, this mace right here, and there it is. Buy it. And that's how you get Altion's mace. Alright then, let's move on to the next, piece of the grind. Now then, for the, the third of the fourth piece, the King's Crown, it will teleport you to Cleric, where you want to click on Cleric Dawn, Altion's Crown, and you'll have the Crown quest. Now, to purify the crown, you need 13 traces of chaos, 40 whispers of chaos, and 60 calcified tears from either Queen Battle or Transformation. Alright then, let's get started. Alright, so for the 13 traces of chaos, I mean, the easiest way is, if you've been doing your weekly ultras, then you could just, come here, 5 champion Dracif insignia, and that's pretty much it. Now, if you haven't been to Ultra Dracif, or if this is your first time, the common comp that is seen at Champion Dracif is, Stone Crusher, Lord of Order, I believe like, Arch Paladin, and like, the DPS over there. Now it could be between, Legion Revenant, Chaos Avenger, Chaos Slayer Berserker really goes hard in that fight. Especially now thanks to its buffs doing extra damage to Chaos. So like Chaos Slayer, the Chaos Slayer class works extremely well over there. You're gonna get massive, DPS from there. And I believe that, what was it? That one of the 4 has to taunt at every 2 million HP, you know, depleted from Champion Dracif. You keep that going, and bam, that's like an easy, Champion Dracif clear. I believe that the DPS taunts every 2 mil. So, yeah, that's pretty much it for the Trace of Chaos. Now let's move on to the next requirement. Now, for the Whispers of Chaos, you need 40 of them, and like the guaranteed drop comes from the Ultra Dreadhaven General. Now keep in mind, according to the design notes, they did, increase its level and increase its damage, and they limit the room limit. It went from 8 to 4, so basically you and 3 people, this class, this guy really does hit hard. And yeah, all you need is like, some support, probably like, 2 support, 2 DPS, and you should be just fine. Just defeat him 40 times for that guaranteed drop. Alright then, let's move on to the next requirement. Now then, for the calcified tier, for the guaranteed drop, you could slash join Queen Battle and fight the Queen of Monsters. She is a chaos tag, so make sure you have chaos, extra weapons and whatnot. And, yeah, that's pretty much it. 4 stars. Obviously right now there is a complete, full lobbies, so you'll be able to defeat her within, seconds and stuff like that. And, you basically get it done. Once that's done, it's like, yeah, she also drops a whole bunch of armors if you haven't picked those up already. Excuse me, from the Queen of Monsters saga. And yeah, that's pretty much it. There she goes, the classified tier. And with that, now you know how to grind the crown. Alright then, let's move on to the armor. Finally, the last piece, Alden's armor. Now then, you want to slash join Delima City, talk to this Golden dude. Golden. You want to click on his armor quest, and you're going to see the King's armor right here. So you're going to need, 100 500k vouchers. That amounts to 50 million gold. You're going to need to buy 100 500k vouchers or go do the daily friendship thing I heard about. Need 30 dwarven gold, 75 atlas gold, 30 sky gold, and 120 camelin gold. Now, how to get, the dwarven gold is that you want to come to the map and you want to, fight these guys. Now, I will say this much. The drop rate for the dwarven gold is not guaranteed. It will take some time. Alright then, let's move on to the next gold requirement. Now, to get 75 of the Atlas gold, you want to slash join Atlas Falls. The guaranteed drop comes from King Zedek. Now, yeah, he does have a bunch of HP, but obviously at the moment, everyone is grinding for the class. So you're gonna, see a full lobby of him. Just like, make sure you have your supports. He's a human tag monster, so, have stuff that, does extra damage against humans, and you should be fine. There's most likely going to be like a Chrono Shadow Slayer there, whatnot. Just, yeah. Alright then, let's move on to the next gold requirement. Now then, to get 50 Sky Gold, you have to slash join Queen Iona and, defeat Queen Iona. Now, she is the guaranteed drop, and she drops 2 at a time instead of 1 at a time. Recommended classes, I mean, you could use, Void High Lord, Chaos Avenger, I personally use Arcana Invoker with pots, and it just does just fine. So yeah, that's how you can get the Sky Gold. Now let's move on to the next gold requirement. Now then, for the last gold requirement, you have to slash join Camelin, and then you want to just, walk up and you're going to fight, these two bosses. You need 120 of them. I recommend using, multi-targeting classes like, Archfiend, Arcana Invoker goes hard in here, Legion Revenant, Archmage, etc. And you just, basically bop the two of them until they drop the 120 gold, and that's pretty much it. And now you know how to grind, the armor, the liberation armor. All right, guys, that's pretty much been it for the, the guide to grinding King's Echo video. If you have the class already, how do you feel about it? Comment section right there. Yeah, pretty much it. Like, subscribe. Road to 400. Yeah, man. Hi, guys. Out.